What's going on, fantasy football world? Today is Sunday, September the 18th. We are in week 2 of the NFL season. Just now getting this page started. I kind of want to just run through these games real quick. There's not gonna be a whole lot of editing in this video. It's not gonna be a whole lot of fancy things happening. It's just more of a trial run. We're gonna get more content up and running here shortly, but for now, this is kind of what we got. I just want to touch on some games today. Well, touch on all the games today, and kind of go through and talk about some players I love, some players I don't like as much, and maybe some deep sleepers in some of these games too. So we're going to get started. I'm obviously a Commanders fan. I'm going to start with the Washington Commanders and the Detroit Lions. So this game here has a lot of different outlook than it did at the beginning of the season. These were two teams that coming in weren't expected to do a whole lot this year. Washington bringing in a lot of new weapons this year with Carson Wentz at quarterback, Jahan Dotson being picked up in the first round. You got Curtis Samuel healthy, and Detroit it's the Lions. I mean, nobody expects a lot out of the Lions. Surprisingly, this game has shootout potential. So offensively, when we look at the Commanders, Carson Wentz for me is a deep league starter, definitely a super flex. Last week, over 300 yards passing, 4 touchdowns. Don't expect that every week. It's Carson Wentz. We know what Carson Wentz is. He's going to give you those good weeks. He's going to give you some bad ones. But I like this matchup with Detroit. Shootout potential. Carson Wentz for me is probably going to be a go. I'm actually starting him in one of my leagues that is a 10-man due to the Dak Prescott injury. So I'm putting my faith in him. I think that you should too. If you've got him and you need to plug him in, or you need a plug for maybe a Dak that's hurt, he's definitely a guy to take a look at. When we're talking about just offensive side and running backs, we're going to look at Antonio Gibson as being an RB2 this week. Definitely want to have him in your lineup if you can. Antonio Gibson came into the season. He had a lot of doubts, fumble issues. And he also lost a starting job at the beginning of the year to Brian Robinson. With the Robinson tragedy, with him getting shot, gave Gibson that opportunity to open that door again. And in week 1, he really did that. He looked really crisp. He was a target machine, had 8 catches in that game. PPR format scored you 20 points. I really like what Gibson did, and I think you're going to get a lot of use out of him this week too. Curtis Samuel will get some touches in the backfield, but outside of him, you're not going to get a lot of carries taken away. Jonathan Williams isn't going to take carries, and J.D. McKissick's a receiving guy, and Gibson actually out-received McKissick last week. So if you've got Antonio Gibson, roll him out RB2, 100% confidence in that. He also has that touchdown upside, so definitely put him in your lineups. Now let's talk pass catching. McLaurin's an obvious go. The number one, he only had 2 targets last week, or only had 2 catches, I apologize. But one was a big, I think about 60 yards for a touchdown. For me, McLaurin's always a go. He is going to draw the number 1 coverage, but with the addition of Dotson and with Curtis Samuel being in that lineup, you're going to get these guys are taking coverage away. So I expect him to, as the year moves on and progresses, to get a little more chemistry with Carson Wentz and definitely build that up. Jahan Dotson for me is not a play yet. I like him as a flex in some deep leagues, but if we're just talking, do I start him today? I want to see more. Dotson's going to be a stud. I really like what he brings to the table. Probably the best hands of any rookie I've seen in a long time. Almost like a McLaurin 2.0. I just want to see how he progresses through the next few weeks. I don't want to jump the gun on him just yet, but stashing him on your bench for me is something that I would 100% be looking to do. If he's out there, he's available in almost 50% of leagues. Get him before it's too late. He's going to be a guy that when we talk about weeks 10, 11, 12, getting deep into the season, getting towards your playoffs, he's a guy that you can definitely have that possibly could help you win your league. So keep him in mind. Curtis Samuel. I like Curtis Samuel for the role that he plays in this offense. I just don't fully trust him yet. I did pick him up in a few leagues. I'm just not playing him this week. If he's your flex option, he's not a bad one. Just beware that Curtis Samuel, he's definitely injury prone, so that part does scare me a little bit. But new offense, again, we got a lot of new pieces in this offense. So Curtis Samuel, for me, plug him in. If you have to. If not, I would say give him a week or 2. Make sure that consistency is going to be there, and then he's going to be a surefire go for you. Logan Thomas, I actually have him as a deep league play this week. Logan Thomas is a red zone. He eats targets. I mean, Carson Wentz loves his tight ends. We know this. And Logan Thomas is a big physical tight end. He is, as this year progresses, is going to get more and more targets. He's just coming off that knee injury. Plug him in, man. If you've got the roster spot, maybe you're streaming tight ends, you don't like your matchup that you got with your guy, maybe like a Cole Kmet kind of thing, and you're looking just to stream. Logan Thomas is somebody you could look at. On the Detroit side, let's talk about Detroit's offense. We're going to talk. Jared Goff for me is not going to be a start, although I do think he's going to have a decent game. Washington's defense is very susceptible to the pass, very bend don't break. And with Trevor Lawrence last week, he missed a few open throws that could have went for a much bigger day, but he didn't have a bad day, just didn't have a great day. I look for the same from Jared Goff. He's got a lot of targets, especially with Amon-Ra St. Brown. We'll get with that in a minute, but he's got a lot of targets that are very reliable, and he's going to be steady. He's going to put up good numbers. DeAndre Swift is a go. His ankle is okay. He's going to be on the questionable list, injury report, every single week. If you're new to fantasy football or new to owning DeAndre Swift, welcome to the club. You're going to be in for a fun ride. We got this last year with DeAndre Swift. You're going to get it this year. He's going to be questionable. He's not going to practice many Wednesdays. Do not panic. He's okay. If he doesn't go, Jamal Williams is the backup option. Now, this week is not an option for Jamal Williams to be in your lineup. A lot of people have talked about, since he scored the 2 touchdowns last week, that they are going to be playing him in their flex spot and asking me, hey, do we play him in our flex? Is he playable? He's not playable. He's not the goal line back. I think you're going to see more of a split as that goes down the line. He did benefit from a couple of swift long runs where they pulled him off the field, and he did get those goal line touchdowns. So that, for Swift owners, myself included, was a little frustrating. But DeAndre Swift is the guy. He's going to get goal line touches. Don't panic on that aspect, and don't panic and buy Jamal Williams expecting him to do 2 touchdowns every week. It's just not reasonable. It's not going to happen. Now we're talking pass catchers. This is going to bring me to, this is my play of the week. And if you got this guy on your bench, why is he on your bench? And I'm talking Amon-Ra St. Brown, Mr. Target Eater himself. This guy gets 10 plus a game. He moves around the field, and this is why I think he's the play of the week. He's going to be lined up in the slot quite often. And last week when Jacksonville lined Christian Kirk in the slot, guess who covered him? It wasn't a cornerback. It was Jamin Davis. Jamin Davis is this is his second year in the league. He's going to be a bust. He's horrible. Well, I can't say horrible. He's not good. The Commanders' linebackers aren't good. And you're going to get that matchup with Amon-Ra possibly against Jamin Davis in certain schemes. That is an exploitation coming 100% of the time. If Amon-Ra St. Brown is lined up in the slot and you see Jamin Davis lined up across from him, I can 100% guarantee you that ball is going to Amon-Ra St. Brown, and it's going to be at least 10, 15 yards. Guaranteed, not even a question. We're not debating that. I expect Amon-Ra to have about 9 catches, 113 yards, and a touchdown. That is my play of the week. Please, if you have him on your bench, unless you're playing me, get him in your lineup. DJ Chark, we'll talk him real quick, but DJ Chark for me is going to be a no. He did last week have about 21% target share, which is a good number. But I guess deeper leagues, you can consider him for the flex. DJ Chark for me right now is not a guy that I have on any of my teams. I would not be targeting. You should be deep enough in most 10, 12-man leagues where DJ Chark's not even an option. You're in the 14, 16-man format, though. DJ Chark could be a deep flex play. But anything outside of that, not looking towards him. With tight ends, TJ Hawkinson, obviously, he's going to be a go. If you drafted TJ Hawkinson, you probably got him in the 7th, 8th round latest. He's a guy that you're going to have in your lineup. So we're going to go on to the next game. We're going to talk Jets-Browns. There's really not a lot to talk about here on the Jets side. I do think that Breece Hall and Michael Carter have some value this week as a flex play. And the reason I say that is because Joe Flacco is going to be running for his life this game. He's going to do there's going to be a lot of checking down here. I don't expect the Jets to be able to run the ball well against Cleveland. I do expect them to dink and dunk it quite a bit. It's going to tell Breece Hall, for right now, I don't think is a guy you can rely on 100%, but he did get 15% of the target share, I believe. So he was the leading targeted guy on that team, which is very positive for Breece Hall owners. You guys drafted him early, probably 3rd, 4th round in a lot of drafts. I noticed he did fall towards the end of the preseason in drafts, but the earlier preseason he was hiked 3rd, 4th round pick. He's going to get there. He's just not going to get there now until he takes that backfield over about 80-20% snap rate. He will do that. I think eventually either Michael Carter will get hurt or he's going to phase Michael Carter out of that offense. I still think Carter will have a role, but I think Breece Hall's just going to get bigger as we go forward. So keep him. Don't panic on Breece Hall just yet. He's going to be fine. But Michael Carter is a interesting flex option, especially deep formats, only because you probably draft him super late. If you're a Michael Carter holder and you don't really need him in your lineup, you're kind of hoping he booms this week because that's 2 big weeks in a row, and you definitely could use that with trade bait. And I will recommend that if Michael Carter booms this week, you're going to sell him high. Pass catchers, Elijah Moore, no. Corey Davis, no. Garrett Wilson, no. But Garrett Wilson is a guy that if he is available in your leagues, which he shouldn't be, go pick him up. He's going to be good down the road. He's going to lead this team. He's going to be their number one. He was drafted. He was an all-pro coming out of – he was a big prospect coming out of high school, all-pro in college. The guy is a stud. He was drafted in the top 10 for a reason. He's a guy you want. But for today, I'm going to say no. I just don't think that this Jets offense is going to get a whole lot going against Cleveland. I see this being a very grinded-out, low-scoring game. And in those games, you don't want a lot of receiver stock. Let's talk Browns. Well, I guess we'll go ahead and touch Jacoby Brissett's obviously not going to be a guy you're looking to start today. Kareem Hunt and Nick Chubb are 2 guys that I want in my lineups this week. Nick Chubb, for obvious reasons, the guy's just 1A. I know it's a split backfield, but he is always going to eat. Kareem Hunt, same reason. He's 1B, but Kareem Hunt is good enough to start on a lot of teams. So Kareem Hunt and Nick Chubb for me are both goes today. I like their matchups with the Jets. I think they're going to grind this game out. I think you're going to see at least 1 touchdown from each of those guys. On the receiving side, though, I don't like as much stock in that. Mainly, you look at, I guess, Amari Cooper's a guy we'll start with. Amari Cooper was a guy that he was heavily targeted in a lot of drafts this year. I was never big on him. Just until Watson comes back or he has any competency at quarterback, I don't think you can start him. You're just going to get that inconsistency, and that's something that, as a fantasy owner, is very frustrating. Very easy to give up on a player. I don't say trade him, unless you get a really good offer for him, but definitely a guy you would want to stash for later in the year. So Donovan Peoples-Jones, big game last week. Don't buy into that too much just yet. We know what Donovan Peoples-Jones is. He's a solid receiver, but he's not. He's a home run guy. So boom or bust definitely has that potential. For me, I'm just not willing to risk it in my lineup. 16-man leagues, I guess, deep formats, you can maybe take a look at them. But for now, 10, 12-manners, he's not going out there. And David Njoku, man, I don't know what he's done to that team, that coaching staff, to have them so just mad at him. They don't ever use him. And they paid him all this money, got this contract extension. We thought, man, this is his breakout year. 1 catch. I don't like Njoku as a play this week. I mean, he may have a good game against the Jets, but I'm until he shows me he's going to get targets, I'm not buying into him. So we're going to talk Bucks Saints now. Got Tampa Bay coming in. You got a banged up receiving core. Banged up offensive line. So Tom Brady is for most people an obvious start. For me, I'm not a big fan of this matchup with Tom Brady. If you've got an option outside of Tom Brady that makes sense this week with the matchup, going back to Carson Wentz, you're not crazy for considering starting him over Brady. I still think Brady's a play. Especially if he's your only option. I don't think you need to go scrounging the waiver wire. But Tom Brady, for me, comes with a question mark this game. Got a banged up team. He's getting up there in age. We've been saying that for 10 years now. Could this be the year Tom Brady regresses? I guess time's going to give us that answer. Leonard Fournette, definitely a go. He's questionable before this game. He will play. Got to have him in your lineup if you got him. You draft him for that reason. Put him in there. I do like Rachaad White. Not this game. I like Rachaad White in the future. He's a guy that could win you your league. I promise you that. Pick him up if you have room on your bench. Stash him. Wait for him to get his turn. You saw a little glimpse of what he can do last week with Dallas. This guy is good. He's going to be good. He could be the guy by the end of this year. If Leonard Fournette stumbles or gets hurt, Rachaad White could take that backfield over. So a guy that I would definitely keep my radar up on, grab him before he goes. I like Rachaad White's upside. Not now, but down the road. Mike Evans in this game, got to start him if you got him, but man, I don't like it. Lattimore has his number. He has had his number, and I think he'll continue to have his number today. But if he's in your lineup, he's got to be starting. Just makes me a little nervous with the questionable, the injury, not practicing much this week. Godwin is out, so that is going to open up some targets. And I expect maybe like a Julio Jones to take those, who I do see as a deep flex play. Julio Jones to me is still an enigma. We don't necessarily know exactly what we're going to get from Julio this year. But what we saw week 1, you got to be positive if you have him. He was involved in the running game. He was involved in the passing game. Julio Jones is a guy that if you're deep flex and you need a guy to start, man, he could be a guy that could definitely a lower floor, but a higher ceiling this week. So with Godwin out, Julio Jones for me is a flex play if you got him. Outside of that, I mean, that's kind of where we're at with Tampa Bay. We'll go to the Saints. With the Saints here, I don't like starting Jameis Winston this week. Bucs defense is good, man. They're scary good, actually. I know the Bills got a lot of that coverage as being the best defense. They look the best. But the Bucs defense looked really good too. So I'm not a big fan of Jameis Winston. With Alvin Kamara being out, that takes away a safety blanket for him. Speaking of Kamara, with him being out and Mark Ingram being the guy that's going to be going today, don't start Mark Ingram. I don't like that play at all. The Bucs defense doesn't give up points to running backs. They're good. They held Zeke in check decently last week. He just didn't get a lot of touches. They definitely held Pollard in check. So for me, Mark Ingram, I know the Kamara owners are going to want to plug him in. You could plug him in. I just don't see a huge game from him. We talk the pass catchers. We'll talk Michael Thomas first. Michael Thomas is definitely a guy that I'm giving a deep look at and getting my lineup somehow or another. Thomas had a great game last week. What scares me with Michael Thomas is I hope he isn't touchdown reliant, because without the 2 touchdowns, he just has a mediocre game, not even really wide receiver 2 worthy. 5 catches, 57 yards isn't going to get it done as a wide receiver 2. But he brings that touchdown upside in an offense that is good. So a guy like Michael Thomas could be a guy you go with today. I don't hate the start either way. So if you got him and you got a chance to put him in your lineup, he's a guy I'd plug in. We'll talk about Chris Olave. I don't like him just yet. Olave is going to be good. I wanted my Commanders to take him so bad. He's going to be a guy that's going to be super good. I think Chris Olave, at the end of the day, is going to be a guy that is going to be a steady, reliable wide receiver 2 by the end of this year. And moving forward, he's going to be a guy we're talking about taking in the early rounds. He's not ready yet. Rookies typically, like I said, takes a little while to get that traction going. You'll have a few standouts here and there, but for the most part, got to get him integrated in the offense. He'll get there. Jarvis Landry, I like Jarvis Landry as a deeper league start as well. Lots of targets, 31% target share, I believe it was. Got to start him if you got him, I think. If you can get him in without being unreasonable, like you're not taking guys out that you know are going to be guys you're going to play every week. But if you got a couple injuries here and there, you got a few spots you got to fill. Jarvis Landry is a guy that is available in a lot of leagues and would be a guy that you could plug in. Have confidence in that he's going to give you a decent outing. Saw Panthers and Giants. So the Panthers, to me, not a whole lot of options that I'm comfortable with. Baker Mayfield's a no. You shouldn't be starting Baker Mayfield at all. Maybe super flexes. I don't know. I don't even know if you start him there. Christian McCaffrey is obviously a go. I mean, it's Christian McCaffrey. He's a go. DJ Moore, start him. I like DJ Moore still. Man, we got to get him in the end zone, though. He's a guy, he's definitely going to get the targets. You're going to see looks. I think him and Baker will develop that chemistry, and he's going to get those 8-9 looks a game. And hopefully he develops a red zone chemistry. We need DJ Moore in the end zone if you're an owner. I am, so I'm hoping he gets in. Robbie Anderson, for me, is not a start yet. I like what he did last week, but minus that one big home run play, he really was not as active in the offense. Robbie Anderson's a guy that you want to see production out of before we start saying, let's play him. We've seen this from Robbie Anderson before, and then we've seen him disappear for 8 straight weeks. So for me, Robbie Anderson, no, don't play him. The tight ends, I don't even know who their tight end is. Tommy Tremble, he's terrible. No, don't don't start them. I say terrible. As a player, they're probably not terrible, but as a fantasy option, they're terrible. So no, stay away from that. I'd say DJ Moore, Christian McCaffrey, probably your only two options out of that offense. When we talk about the Giants, same situation. Running back with Saquon Barkley, 100%. He's got to go. He could be RB 1, 2, or 3 by the end of this year. If he stays healthy, man, God, he looks good. He's back to his old form. Now, Daniel Jones, no. Stay away from him. We know what he is. The receiving core is a mess in New York. Kadarius Toney was a guy that I was big on before the year started. Not so much anymore. I don't know what it is. He's either injured or they just don't use him. When they've used him, though, and he's been healthy, he's been good. I think he's played 19 games, and I think 14 or 15 of those he's been on the injury report. And even the games he was healthy, he didn't even finish. I think he's only played like 1 or 2 complete games in the NFL without actually being injured. So Kadarius Toney for me is a guy that I'm probably even looking to drop at this point. I just don't see his relevance being anything. You got a guy that you're going to have to guess if he's going to be on the field. And when he's on the field, he's not even being used. He might give you 1 or 2 boom games, but he's going to be a bust 9 times out of 10, it looks like. Sterling Shepard's a guy I maybe could look at as a deep sleep league flex play. But if you're resorting to starting Sterling Shepard, your team's probably already in trouble. He's a guy, though, you can plug in and be confident with, that he's going to give you some production. What that production is going to be is not necessarily clear yet, but week 1 was a good week for him. He's the number 1 in that offense. So if anybody, he's the guy. Kenny Golladay, my God, I don't even know what to say about Kenny Golladay. He came to New York and he's just terrible as a fantasy player. He's been very rarely used. Just stay away from him. We're going to talk the next game is going to be the Patriots and the Steelers. So the Patriots, for me, not a lot of options here. Pittsburgh defense looked really good last week against Cincinnati, and that's a much better offense than they're going to be facing this week. Mac Jones just no. I don't even think Mac Jones is healthy right now. He just didn't look good last week. Not a guy I'm confident moving forward in. I like him in Dynasty. Don't like him in any play this week, though. Now, we're also going to talk about the running backs, Damian Harris, Ramondre Stevenson. Harris, for me, is a no. He's a guy that I've never been big on. He's a good running back. He's just touchdown reliant because he doesn't get a lot of passing yards. Ramondre Stevenson is a enigma right now because with Ty Montgomery hitting the IR, I think Ramondre Stevenson gains a little value just taking that third down role, that receiving back. So for me, Ramondre Stevenson is not a go today, but he's a guy that you definitely want to stash on your bench if you can, and wait it out, because I think down the road in this season, you're going to see a shift in that backfield. You're going to see Ramondre Stevenson get a lot more work. I think even if Ty Montgomery comes back, I think Ramondre Stevenson could solidify himself into that role while he's out and maintain that throughout the year. Pass catching wise, no. Just Jacoby Myers, no. I don't even know who their wide receiver 2 is. I don't care because I don't have any stock in the Patriots offense. I don't want any stock in that offense. Ramondre Stevenson, I do have stashed on 1. That's the only stock I'm ever going to have in that offense. He's like my RB6 on that team anyway. So that team, I don't want their offense. I'm going to say don't start any of them. Talking about the Steelers here, we want to be very careful with the Steelers this week because Najee Harris is coming off that injury. I don't know how healthy he is. He's going, which is a good sign. Not if you picked up Warren, but he's going. His workload scares me. And the reason I say that is because the Steelers play Thursday night. Mike Tomlin, as a Steelers head coach, is typically going to lighten his running backs' loads on Sundays before Thursday night games. And you got a guy that's been injured and is currently injured. That Liz Frank injury, we don't know how bad or severe that is. We don't know what's going on with his foot right now. What we do know is that Najee Harris is a very, very, very risky play. He's going to play if he's on your team. He's your RB1 or 2, more than likely your RB1. Get him in your lineup unless you got a much better option outside of him. I'm considering going Gibson and A.J. Dillon and sitting Harris this week. But if you got him, you kind of got to play him. You drafted him first round, early second. You got to get him in there. I would say don't be confident in it. But if he gets you a touchdown this week, then that's That's all you can really ask for. What you don't want is to start him and he gets hurt in the first quarter and he doesn't come back. That kills you. That actually cost me a game last week with Harris, him going down and not playing the rest of that game. I lost by 1 point. Was not happy about it, but hey, that's the risk you take when you play guys that already came in with injuries. So, pass catching wise, Deontay Johnson, 100% start him. I don't care where you got to put him in at. Get him in your lineup. Deontay Johnson is a guy that he's just reliable. He's a very good possession receiver. He's going to get looks. He's going to get catches. PPR format, he's 100% a go. Chase Claypool, he's a very intriguing play. I just don't like it yet. Let's see how that offense progresses with Trubisky. I think if they shift to Kenny Pickett at any point, I think they both become very relevant. But right now, I'm going to stick with the relevancy of just Deontay Johnson. Although if you have Chase Claypool, be very optimistic with what we saw week 1. And moving forward, I think he's a guy that's going to be playable down the line. Pat Freiermuth, 100%. Play him. He's definitely good if you're streaming tight end. If you drafted him, then even better. So we're going to move on to the Colts and the Jaguars. So this game here screams trap game for the Colts. I didn't like the Colts in this game before Michael Pittman's out. I really don't like the Colts in this game now that Michael Pittman and Alec Pierce probably won't be playing. Paris Campbell's stock went up. We'll talk about him in a second, but let's go with the quarterbacks first. The Colts, Matt Ryan. I actually had him picked up and slated to play today with Michael Pittman stacked. Because of the Dak injury, I actually switched to Carson Wentz because of that injury. So for me, I don't like Matt Ryan in this spot. He's going to throw, I think, enough, but I just don't like him unless he's like a super flex, deep plug. Jonathan Taylor, why waste your time talking about him? Yes, if you don't play him, I don't know what you're doing. Go trade him, but play him. Nyheim Hines, I think, is an interesting play. He's going to be on the field a little more this week, I believe, especially with the depleted core. Yeah, I think Nyheim Hines is a flex in some leagues. Especially the deeper leagues. 10, 12 manners, it's going to be hard to get Nyheim Hines in your lineup, but anything past 12 man, I think he's a go if you got him. Definitely a flex option. He's going to get his catches, maybe even find the end zone once, so that would be perfect situation for Nyheim Hines owners. Get him in your lineup if you can. We're talking receivers here. Paris Campbell for me is probably going to be a no. Paris Campbell doesn't get a ton of catches going against number 2 cornerbacks. Now you're putting him up against number 1 running back or number 1 cornerbacks. Yes, the Jaguars defense was a little suspect last week against Commanders. I think that's partially due to the Commanders being a little more competent on offense this year. So I don't think the Jags defense is terrible. I just don't think it's great. I don't think Paris Campbell's great either. As a fantasy option. So for me, I'm just fading all of the Colts receivers this week. I'm going to run with their running backs, so I'm going to put them out there, and I'm just going to fade all their receivers. With the Jaguars, man, so that running backfield's a mess. Trevor Lawrence is probably not a start yet. He was okay last week, just wasn't great. He looked poised in some situations, and he just looked very panicked in others. I don't think he's ready. I don't even know if he's the guy that we think he's going to be. Trevor Lawrence, to me, isn't a guy that I ever was big on, and I'm not sure how far his NFL career is going to progress after this. We had the Urban Meyer blame last year, which is fine. We can blame Urban Meyer all you want. Fact of the matter is, Trevor Lawrence still had the ability to go out there and make plays, and he just didn't do it a lot. So for me, Trevor Lawrence, I'm just not investing in him. Even Dynasty, I'm not invested in Trevor Lawrence. I could regret saying that. If I do, that's fine. But when we go outside of Trevor Lawrence, let's talk about the running backs. James Robinson last week looked explosive, and that's not what ATN owners were hoping for, and I am one of them. Travis Etienne, on the other hand, didn't get a ton of carries, but he did look good when he did run the ball. He also dropped a touchdown and was wide open and overthrown on a touchdown. So Etienne's not a guy you panic on. I think you keep him in your lineup if you got him. James Robinson's a guy you can start to, though. I personally think you kind of see if he booms, and if he's a guy that's deep on your bench, you look to make a big trade, either with him or another piece, and you plug him in your lineup. This week, though, James Robinson, for me, is not going to be a play. Colts defense is pretty good. I think it's going to be kind of a low-scoring game, to be honest with you. I see the Jaguars winning this game, though, so I'm going to go ahead and say, yeah, if don't play James Robinson this week. Christian Kirk's a guy you're going to want to start, and I've been saying this since the offseason. Christian Kirk is going to get targets. Christian Kirk is going to be the guy. Start him if you have him. Zay Jones, on the other hand, could become an interesting deep league play at some point. I'm going to say no this week, though. You don't want to go past that depth chart of Christian Kirk, I don't think. He's going to be the guy this week. He's going to get a lot of targets, I believe. So Christian Kirk, yes. Zay Jones, Marvin Jones, I'm going to say no. Evan Ingram, no. He's just not used enough. We thought he would be, unfortunately. He's just not, so. We'll touch on one more game, and then we're going to take a quick break. We'll come back with the rest of the slate. Last game we'll touch on right now is going to be the Dolphins and the Ravens. For the Dolphins, I like their offense this year. They didn't look stellar last week, but again, it's a lot of new parts moving in that offense, so give them a little bit of time. Tua's going to be a good play, I think, in deeper leagues, Superflex. Dynasty definitely want him. I think Tua's progressing, and he's only going to get better the more weapons they keep surrounding him with. So Tua, for me, is an interesting play this week. He is a guy that's probably available or just picked up in your league. With the Dak injury, he's going to be a guy that becomes playable on a lot of teams now that are struggling at quarterback. So, I mean, Tua's a good option. You look at his running back core, outside of Chase Edmonds, I'm not starting anybody. Chase Edmonds is a go. I really like Chase Edmonds. I did package him in a trade this week, unfortunately, with A.J. Brown to acquire Travis Kelce. But to me, Chase Edmonds is a guy that you're going to want late in the season. I think he's going to be great. We'll talk pass catchers. Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle definitely goes. People seem to forget with Jalen Waddle what he did last year. He was really good, man. Jalen Waddle, he was stellar. And to be honest with you, he in my league, I had a lot of injuries towards the end of the year. So Jalen Waddle was a guy that stepped up huge for me. Amon-Ra St. Brown was another one who I obviously am big on. But definitely, when we're talking Jalen Waddle, I like him. Tyreek Hill's Tyreek Hill, man. He's just going to be a baller. He's a stud. Put him out there. Outside of that, though, I'm not big on any of those targets. So that's kind of where I'm at on that. The Ravens. So this isn't a great matchup for them, but it looks like J.K. Dobbins is going to play. So it's going to open that offensive playbook up a lot. I mean, Lamar Jackson is an obvious start if you drafted him. Especially with him being healthy. I think that running game is going to be a little more dynamic with J.K. Dobbins. I just don't think it'll be this week. I don't want to start Dobbins in any leagues until I see what he can do. Coming off that injury, they haven't talked great about it. So for me, I would probably try to steer clear of J.K. Dobbins for at least this week. You know, if he goes out there and he looks great, hey, you learn for next week. But right now, let him get his feet back under him. He's probably not going to play on a snap count. Probably going to split a little time. So give him a week, give him 2 weeks, let him get his footing. He'll be fine. Let's talk the pass catchers, though. So Mark Andrews, obviously, he's a start. I have his stack with Lamar Jackson in my big money league. I'm a big fan of that stack. I know last week wasn't the greatest week for those guys, but they're going to get it together. Don't panic on that. We'll talk about Rashad Bateman. I'm becoming less and less more interested in Rashad Bateman. This is just a passing offense that doesn't rely on passing. They don't throw the ball a ton. Lamar Jackson is going to look to run just as much as he's going to look to throw. And if he looks to throw, 90% of his targets go to Mark Andrews. So obviously not 90%. Don't let me over-exaggerate. It's definitely about a 29% target share, which is still really high. That doesn't open up a lot of targets for wide receivers. So Rashad Bateman, for me, is a guy you can play this week. Flex play him if nothing else. Not a guy I'm very excited about moving forward. Everybody's on the Devin Duvernay bandwagon right now, and I'm going to say don't. Especially if you have free agent acquisition bucks that you're using to get these guys. Don't rush to just week one, guys. We've played 1 week. Don't be over-exaggerating guys that aren't going to play a whole lot this year. Devin Duvernay Good receiver. Probably not going to be fantasy relevant most this year, if any of the rest of the year. Yeah, he had a couple nice plays, but touchdown reliance doesn't get you too far. I may be wrong on this guy. I mean, if you got him, I'm not going to say just drop him immediately. Give him a few weeks. I don't want a lot of pass catchers in that offense. I'm just not a big fan of the Ravens passing game in general. Mark Andrews is the guy I did target, only because he does eat up those targets from Lamar Jackson when he's throwing, and I like that stack. Our big money league has heavy quarterback scoring, so Lamar Jackson's rushing upside along with his touchdown upside is just too much to pass on. But that's going to do it for the first part of this video. I'm going to upload another part of the second half of this, touch on some other games. Well, touch on all the other games. We're actually going to talk about a couple players that I'm big on that you may not have on your team that are available, and I'm also going to talk about some guys that that you may be panicking on, you want to sell. We're going to kind of go through and talk about should you panic and should you sell those guys. Until next time, thanks for tuning in. I hope if you found any value in this video, like, subscribe. I'm going to be doing content every week. We're going to do 3 or 4 videos a week. It's going to touch on games. We're going to be doing Tuesday recap. We'll probably start forecasting for the Thursday game. Then we're going to go in on Sunday mornings. We're going to hammer these Sunday games. We're going to talk about everything. If you have any questions, obviously, once we get this moving, with more viewers, we'll have you put questions in the comment section. We'll be able to answer those live. And if you leave a comment, I'm going to reply to it because there's probably not going to be a whole lot of them right now. So drop a comment. If you have any lineup questions before the games get going, I'll get you an answer as soon as I can. Until then, guys, take care, and may the fantasy football gods forever be in your favor.